Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. This show is brought to you by DraftKings. Mitch Moss, Pauly Howard, live downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. So Nigel Seeley has been popping on and doing a bang-up job with the Euros 24. He's off today, but his good mate is named Steve Wyss, and he's a European soccer handicapper. He's on X at Meet My Man Soccer, and he is kind enough to join us today on the Progressive Guest Line. Steve, it's a pleasure talking to you. How are you?
I'm very well, guys. Thanks for having me on, Paul and Mitch. It's a slightly depressing as an England fan this morning. We did not play very well yesterday, and we've got to really improve. But yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because Nigel came on a couple of weeks back when they were the shortest shot on the board to win this tournament, and he said, do not bet them. It was 3-1 at the time. He said, that's not a good number. And now you look at the outrights at DraftKings. France, the shortest shot at 4-1. The Germans playing great soccer. They're plus 425. And then England plus 450. Is there anything there that you would look at today or maybe beyond that to win this thing?
Well, Nigel was absolutely right. England were never a bet in this tournament. And they've now drifted to third favourites to win. And I certainly couldn't part any cash on my own nation. I'll tell you the team that did impress me, and that was last night, and that was Spain. At one point during that match against Italy, they were so dominant. It only ended 1-0, but they were so dominant. I was wishing I had an outright ticket on them. I think they started the tournament about plus 800 in some places. They're now into plus 550. They do look like the team to beat at the moment, but I've seen it before with them, and some can occasionally go wrong where they have a game where they dominate someone and don't finish their chances. But I have to say, Spain at plus 550 did catch my eye last night. They were very, very impressive.
You're the perfect guy to ask, and as an expert, if Mbappe plays, what's Mbappe worth to the number? Is he worth 30 cents? Is he worth 20 cents? What these superstars and the best players in the world, what do they mean if they're opposed to being in or out?
Very good question, because there's a lot of question marks about his participation in the match tonight against France. I honestly think, and some might almost laugh at me for this, I think in the goals total, he's possibly worth about half a goal, if not a bit more.
Okay.
He's an unbelievable player. He's arguably the best player in the entire world because he doesn't just score goals, guys. He assists them, and he can think of it in like American football terminology. You sometimes have to double, treble team him as a defender. Uh-huh. He's that good. So I think he's worth about half a goal to the totals. In terms of the France price, probably worth about 35 cents, maybe a little bit more.
Okay, let's get to the matches on the board today. We have Poland and Austria. And again, in the betting market here, Austria, DraftKings in the three-way, they're plus 105, Poland plus 285. The draw is plus 230, but you want to approach this in a different manner. You think both teams are going to score in this match?
I think both teams lost their first game, so they've got 0 points. If you're going to qualify for the next round, you would definitely need at least 3 points on the board, possibly more. So I think both are going to think they have to win the match. When that happens in soccer, you often get a really wide open contest, which leads me to look at the over goal lines. I prefer the both teams to score. Yes, it's shorter odds, a bit skinnier, because these are two sides that will often create chances but miss quite a few of them. So I do want that 1-1 draw in my pocket if it ended that way. So both teams score, yes. It's a bit of a conservative play, guys, but Robert Lewandowski should be back for Poland in this game, and that's a big positive for them. He's one of the best strikers in the last decade in world soccer.
Okay, very good. Steve Wyss, our guest. Follow the Money, Pauly and Mitch VSiN, these sports betting networks on the Progressive Guest Line. Let's go to the early one Saturday. Georgia in action. Again, you like the total here. What do you think of the total 2.5 in the Georgia match?
Straight over 2.5. No messing around here. A very simple play. I mean, Georgia, for anyone who watched them, it's their competition debut. They're the lowest ranked side in the competition, 75 in the world. They were a brilliant watch for the neutral. I mean, I don't know if you guys are actually supporting any nation in the Euros or not. These would be a fantastic option for anyone sort of for the neutral, because they're just the way they played against Turkey. They lost 3-1, but what they showed unbelievable fight and bravery, and they've got some decent attackers. Kvaratskhelia, Mikotadze. Anyone who likes a big play, you could look at taking him anytime goal scorer, Mikotadze for Georgia. But again, both teams lost their first game. They're going to feel like they need to win. The strength for both sides is actually going forward. I think in this game, it's going to be an open match. And a draw doesn't actually do any of these teams any good whatsoever. So I think it's going to be, if it's a draw with 10 minutes to go, they're both going to go for it. Should be goal contributions. Chances all over the pitch, guys. Yeah. So I think this is an open game.
All right. Okay. Love it. You mentioned this before you came on, and we just talked about it. And Nigel tweeted about the own goals, too, with the Golden Boot. You said there was a prop available, total own goals in the tournament. 2.5, 3.5 in that range, and we've had 6 already. Do you recommend a wager on that if you can find 8-1, or you just think that's something you don't look at, or the fact that if this continues to happen, you're cashing nice tickets here?
Well, Paul, there seems to be a bit of a narrative in this tournament. Every goal is either a banger from outside the penalty box or an own goal or a mistake. So I think I can't remember exactly what the own goal line was pre-tournament, but I think it was 2.5 or 3.5. Obviously, it's completely cashed well over if that was the case. One bit of advice I will give to people, if you're looking at a low-scoring game, don't back the 0-0, back no goal scorer, because you will still get paid out if it ends 1-0 and the goal was an own goal. So that's a bit of something to look out for. And people will be backing own goals blind now because they keep seeing them coming in. My only reasoning I can think of is that the defenses are just not as well drilled at international level because they have less time with their coaches.
All right, love the angle.
Yeah, well done.
One other match here. This is on Sunday. Hungary takes on Scotland. What do you want to do with this match?
Well, I was actually surprised by how well Scotland rebounded after. Yeah. I mean, Scotland were terrible against Germany. As bad a performance you can ever see. And I lost some money betting against Scotland in the Switzerland game. But I think Hungary are better than Scotland. And Hungary have got to win this game. Both teams have got to win the game, by the way, to have any chance of qualifying for the next round. I'm going to back Hungary here. I think they're a big price at plus money. If you look at them in qualifying in the last few years, I think they've got more about them. They've got better offensive options than Scotland. So in a must-win game, I think Hungary get the business done here. I don't think Scotland are suddenly going to be amazing again. One decent performance doesn't mean they're going to back it up. So I would definitely be thinking Hungary here can get the job done against Scotland at decent price.
Steve, how well do you know Nigel?
I mean, yeah, I know him pretty well. I mean, I've been working with him for the last 3 or 4 years now. So, yeah. Is
it quite the scene when you go out and have a pint or 20?
Well, he does. He's someone who does like a Stella or two. I've tried to get him into some more northern beverages. I'm from the northern part of the UK, you see.
Okay.
Up near Leeds. So
the Leeds, all right.
Need to get him up here in Yorkshire to experience some of the finer ales.
Well, that's great. So he's been before the tournament started. He said bet Harry Kane. He was around plus 550, I believe, Golden Boot, but also keep riding him. And yesterday, his advice was to bet him to score a goal. He did. He got there. Did you do that? And are you going to consider like betting as long as it's around that price? If it stays in that number plus money, would you consider Kane to score a goal in all these matches?
I wasn't going to yesterday, but then Nigel reminded me half an hour before kickoff. Kane is plus 150 to score here. You got to get on. So I did get on, and he's absolutely right because Harry Kane can be invisible for 89 minutes. But give him. I'm just saying it could happen. But
sure.
For that 1 minute, he's a fox in the box. He's there to score the goal. He's a poacher, and that's what happened yesterday. He capitalised on a mistake. He's always there. He's on the penalty kicks. England. I'm surprised England haven't won a penalty yet. They usually win quite a few of them because they've got so many good technical players. And we know how good he is from the spot, apart from when he missed against France in the World Cup. So Harry Kane, whenever he is, certainly plus 100 against just an average nation, yeah, you really probably do need to be getting on him. And as the tournament progresses, you've got to expect your big players to step up, haven't you?
Yeah, I love that. You called him a poacher. Is it Felica?
Felica. He's the luckiest athlete he's ever seen.
Yeah.
He's just standing in the corner and the ball finds him. Yep.
Pretty much what Steve just said.
There's an art to it, boy. There's an art to it. It's positioning. There's a nous to it. There's not many Harry Kane is a genuine striker. There's not many he's going out of the game a little bit now. You get a lot of strikers, what you call shadow strikers now, or false nines or inside forwards who are more dynamic. The general sort of traditional number 9 is being phased out of the game. There's not many of them at the tournament. I mentioned George Mikitadze there for Georgia tomorrow. Mm-hmm. He's actually one of the few remaining guys who you class as a genuine striker. A lot of nations don't have that. England do have a weapon with Kane, so he might take some criticism. For some games, he hardly has a touch of the ball. But when he makes his touch count, if you know what I mean.
Yep, for sure. Steve, that was awesome.
Beautiful.
Great appearance. Love talking to you. And make sure you follow him on X. He's at Meatman Soccer, European soccer handicapper. Best of luck today and this weekend.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, guys. It was an absolute pleasure.
Love the conversation.
We'll do it again. Yep. Thank you.
He was on the progressive guest line.
I love the OG breakdown. That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
That the prop's already gone over, and then how to play it, like with the 0-0. Because you still get paid with the no goal score, what he said there.
Yeah, great analysis.
That's
on
awesome.
That. So the prop was 2.5 or 3.5 before it started, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking here at several books. It's tough to find, though. Tough to find.
Also, what he said, too, because once we get into Sunday, then it's the final match there with the table. So then you're looking at the game starting at the same time then, too. So that's, right. Who knows, maybe when you look at it, Team A is blowing out Team B, and then you get the goal differential and all the wonky stuff as well. But that's great once we get going to Sunday with the matches at the same time.
Still to come this hour, Lou Finocchiaro, Game 6 tonight, UFC. We have college football playoff odds as well. We'll go over some of the group of 5 contenders with huge numbers. It's VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
So much going on at VSiN.com. Matt Humans with NBA Futures, Shoemaker on the WNBA. Nigel also has an opinion on this Poland-Austria match as well. He likes a side. Steve likes the over. Odds by state, betting tools, betting guides, betting splits, and best bets. Check it out. Lou Finocchiaro as well on the UFC. VSiN.com. Bookmark it. Get up there every day.
I'll tell you what, I would lock in Victor Wembanyama 50-1 to win the MVP. That was offered at some global shops. Stateside, the best number I've seen is 35-1. And so I'm not going to bet that. And most books are like 20, 25-1 on him. 4-1 globally to win Defensive Player of the Year, like we brought up quickly on the show yesterday. Some NBA news to get into here. If you're looking to get into this, like the future market, I know that JJ Redick was the biggest news of the day because it is the Lakers we're talking about. But to me, the biggest move of the day yesterday clearly was what Oklahoma City did. They added Alex Caruso, who's like an all-everything defensive player from the Chicago Bulls, and all they had to give up was Josh Giddey, no picks at all involved. And when you look at some of the advanced metrics, for example, the estimated defensive plus-minus, he was plus 3.4 last year. That was 5th best in the entire NBA. He's a 2-time all-NBA defensive player, Caruso. And now you bring him in on the perimeter to go with Dort, to go with SGA, to go to some of the other depth and the guys that they have playing. That team, they already got better. And it's only the beginning. Very
good trade, and I don't understand what the Bulls are doing. Because now it appears they're going to blow this up, and now they're going to rebuild. Like, why didn't you do this before?
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier. How about DeRozan on the Lakers? Maybe that happens. He's an L.A. guy. I don't know about that fit, but certainly the Bulls are going to, because, I don't know if Lonzo Ball's going to play again with the injuries, but they're going to move off of him, it looks like. And then the other guy out there is Zach LaVine, which you hear in Sacramento.
I saw hot and heavy with Sacramento. We'll see.
Described as a great backcourt if they get him. The guy's, I don't know about that. I don't really like his game. He'll have 25 points and 1 assist.
You know, it was a great backcourt, De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, no kidding. So you also see Utah out there. Some people questioning the fit, but a lot of suitors out there, and certainly it looks like LaVine will be gone as well. And now the Sixers, according to reports, Sixers not going to get Paul George, and they're going to go in a different direction. And Brian Windhorst is doing it again. Remember he did the Utah thing with Gobert.
No,
why is that?
Why would he do that again?
Why? And putting the fingers up, it was excellent. So why aren't the Clippers signing George knowing that they're not going to give him the max? They're only going to go 3 years, and someone can come in and give him the max, and they risk losing him for nothing. So maybe it's a tough market out there, but now according to reports, the Sixers say, no, we don't want him. And they're going to go maybe Pope, Ingram, that direction. Certainly stealing Pope from Denver would be enormous, not just for the league, but also if Philly could do this. But no Paul George, and I don't know if the Orlando thing's going to happen. I don't know where he's going to wind up, but that's Windhorst is sitting on something.
Oh, he is. So does that mean that they'd let Paul George walk if anybody and then they have somebody else that they're targeting to bring in? Now, why is that, Pauly? I heard Mitch Lawrence brought this up locally here on a radio interview yesterday. He said and he thinks that this could actually happen. He thinks the owner of the Suns would love to do this and the Sixers should consider it on both sides. He said, if you're the Suns, call up the 76ers and offer Devin Booker and Nurkic for Joel Embiid. And he was breaking down why he thinks that would be a good fit on both sides. He thinks then that way the backcourt it's going to be Bradley Beal. He can operate as like the main point guard, can have Durant and Embiid down low, and then for the Sixers, it's going to be Booker, Maxey, and you can add more beyond that. The Suns are not going to. What are they going to do? Just bring it back and be okay with that big three that's going to go absolutely nowhere next year? The Sixers have to do something.
They will. Hopefully it'll be a great start. And then what happens to Ingram? I think Ingram's a good player.
Oh, so do I.
He was playing injured and was horrible in the playoffs. And some of those, but that's, he'd be a nice piece on that team if they could get him. And I'd rather have Ingram and Pope as opposed to Paul George. I can tell you that. I think Clay's going to wind up in Orlando. I think Golden State's only wants to do 2 years offering, so maybe Clay winds up in Orlando as well.
Do you like that fit for the Magic? I mean, that's the kind of player that they absolutely have to have.
I'd rather have Paul George, but
yeah, I love Klay Thompson, love him, but and he'd be honest too. It's like he's not the same dude.
Yep.
So if they could get a younger version of that guy, 3-and-D, but good from downtown, they need a guy who can bang him from downtown, and that's easier said than done potentially. And then the big news obviously was JJ Redick in the job for the Lakers, and they're going to tell you that he's the guy they wanted all along. Yeah, that's why you gave him $8 million a year and you offered Dan Hurley $70 million overall. I don't know, man. He has no coaching experience other than his kids' youth basketball team.
I'm going to give him a chance. Everyone talks about how smart he is. I know it seems bizarre. You're talking about one of the best organizations ever and a dream job. Certainly the podcast with LeBron helped. But he was sought after. Other organizations wanted him, not as a head coach, but as an assistant. But the next important move is, what do you add to the roster? Do you get a Murray, a DeRozan, somebody like that? And then what do you do as far as assistants? Is it Stan Van Gundy? You hear Rondo, you hear the Dudley rumors. You have to surround him with experienced people because he's never done this before.
Sure.
And the track record isn't strong. And it's going to scare and frighten some Laker fans. Hello, Southern California. But I know I'm very confident. X's and O's, creativity, imagination, offensive game plan. He's going to do a good job.
Yeah, here's a couple of things. I think you have to give the guy a chance, right? But I also want to know what Pelinka is going to do in the offseason because they absolutely must add some other players to this team. The West is going to be better than this year, coming up in 2024, 2025. Also, I will say this about hiring Redick. Look, I mean, part of me is telling you that you're the Los Angeles Lakers. You do not hire a guy who has zero head coaching experience. However, I will flip it and say then, name me the other good candidate or candidates available for the job. Because I'll wait and listen because I don't have a long list. And I don't think anybody does either. And that's probably, that's the biggest issue here.
Yep.
If Hurley's going to say no, and I don't even know if Dan Hurley is a good NBA candidate. He's unbelievable in college. Does that mean anything in the NBA? We'd have to, let it pan out. But there's not like a ton of guys in the NBA who are like, he's going to take them to the championship level. That doesn't exist. So that's why I'm okay with giving this guy a shot. Because it's a turnstile there anyway. We're talking about 7 head coaches since 2011. That's when Phil Jackson last coached there.
I don't remember the Vogel thing. Why he was let go so soon after winning a championship? I can't remember what happened exactly there, but you're right. Does he last 3 years and the last guy to do it, Phil Jackson? So that has to change. And the track record here going back in history, at least to 2006 from Evan Abrams. Steve Nash, disaster. Didn't work out with the Nets. Fisher, disaster. Jason Kidd, it started out, it was horrible. He couldn't do no imagination, no creativity, and couldn't get freak numbers and the ball and the offense stunk, and he was let go, although a lot of success in Dallas. Mark Jackson, disaster, made the playoffs, but you had Curry and Thompson, and you were 18th in offensive efficiency, which is offensive and a joke. Vinny Del Negro, average. But Steve, now, we hate the comparisons in it. But, well, we think he can be Pat Riley. We think he could be Spoelstra. As you pointed out, stop it. Spoelstra started at the bottom and worked his way up with Miami. He was the video game coordinator. But Steve Kerr, although, yes, he was the GM in Phoenix prior to being the head coach with Golden State, that's not bad. Now, he took over a great situation, a playoff team with the best shooter of all time, and then voila, I go in and I win the title. But I predicted that. You knew that was going to happen, that Golden State was going to be much improved once they went in that direction. So that's where I could see where Pelinka and the Lakers and Jeannie Buss are saying, we can have this similar thing to what Kerr did.
Well, here's the problem with that. Steve Kerr was taking over a job, as you said, Mark Jackson. Although Mark Jackson with the ATS record in his first year, that was also a strike-shortened year. So they only played 67 games, 66 games. He was a winning coach, ATS. But Steve Kerr took over a team that had all those young players entering their prime. It's the exact opposite with the Lakers.
Yeah.
That's why this is going to come down to what Pelinka is going to be able to do to make them a better team overall. But look, I'll say this about the Lakers again. Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. What happens to this team if they don't draw Denver in the first round?
That's a good question.
And I don't. People are going to say 5-game series. Don't care. If you can have a great 5-game series, that was one of them. They gave the Nuggets all they could handle.
Yep, and AD was solid. It's a tough matchup for him.
It is. If the Lakers got OKC or Minnesota in the first round, maybe we're talking about something entirely different here. Mm-hmm. Well, then maybe Ham's not even fired. Who knows? If they make another deep run.
But so much of this is the respect from the players. And what can you draw up and what are practices like? And he lost those guys when he would try to go to the chalkboard and try to draw stuff up because he couldn't do it. And also some substitution moves and lineup stuff. I mean, AD put him on Front Street after a game in the playoffs. The quote was, we're going through games, both ends of the court. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, at that point, he was gone. So he lost the locker room.
It's certainly going to be intriguing to watch it out of the gates specifically. It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Lou Finocchiaro on the program coming up next. We'll find out if he has a bet to make in the College World Series. Tennessee favored over Texas A&M to win the whole thing. UFC card this weekend and how he's betting Game 6 tonight, Stanley Cup Final, next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
All right, our NFL betting guide drops next week. Looking forward to it. We went over the stuff we like with the Jets yesterday. Win totals, team breakdowns, team previews, prop bets, everything you want. And that you have to be a VSiN subscriber to get the NFL betting guide. 13 months, 1 month free. 13 months for $1.99 works out to less than 50 cents a day. Sign up today, VSiN.com/subscribe. Code FTM. Code FTM to unlock this deal. VSiN.com/subscribe.
VSiN contributor Lou Finocchiaro joins the program now. He loves betting the NFL. He loves betting the College World Series. He loves betting the UFC. And he loves betting the NHL as well. And we have a Game 6 tonight in the Stanley Cup Final. And Uncle Lou was on the Progressive guest line. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Doing great, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. Great time of year for me, for everybody.
Yeah, love talking to you. Let's begin with Game 6 tonight then. Now, this number, where it is on game day here, Lou, it's I'm seeing as low as -110 this morning on Edmonton on the odds screen. They were as high as -125 a couple of days ago. Were you part of the Florida steam here, betting the Panthers in Game 6? If so, why?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been on Florida since January. There's no really reason for me to jump off now. I've been a selfish NHL puck passion guy wanting 7 games from the beginning. Now I'll retract myself a little bit. I don't want 7, I want 6. I believe in Florida. I never thought it would be easy. From the opening line of this series, what was Florida, -135 or so? They expected a tight series. McDavid's done well. Edmonton's done well. Florida's loosened up a little bit the last two games. And now, even though the early money, just like NFL guys, tends to be guys ahead of the line. And I would expect that from today, noon on, we'll start to see some Edmonton money, which is public money. That early money, I believe, is educated hockey players trying to get the price on Florida. Road teams have had great success these last three rounds. I believe Florida's best way to give it to Edmonton would be to hoist on their ice, and I believe that's exactly what will happen.
All right, UFC Fight Night tomorrow, Saudi Arabia. Don't get caught with your pants down. The prelims at 9 a.m. Pacific, early start here. Let's go to the main event with Whitaker, 140, 145 in that range, 2.5 round prop over 150. You like a favorite. You have my attention. Tell us why.
Well, there's a number of reasons to like Whitaker. First of all, he's the number 3 ranked middleweight in the world. He was getting ready to fight a monster in Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev got ill, had to fall out, and in comes Ikram Aliskerov, who's a very capable fighter. However, he was preparing for a co-main event a week ago in Las Vegas. That was a 3-round affair he was preparing for. He was preparing for a guy down the line, you'll see, Trocoli. Trocoli is a Brazilian kickboxer, hasn't fought in 2.5 years, and that was a 3-round fight. So Aliskerov begins cutting weight a week ago in Las Vegas, prepared to fight a stand-up striker kicker, and now in short time has to travel across the world, cut weight again, and now fight the top 3 guy in the division. He is taking this fight for advantage. He's going to endear himself to the UFC, number one. Number two, it's a great opportunity. Should he catch lightning in a bottle, he projects himself up in the division. And it's a fight he has to take, but there's nothing about this that gives him any advantage. Meanwhile, Whitaker preparing for Chimaev, and Chimaev a very similar fighter to Aliskerov. So Whitaker has very little to adjust to. He's been there. He's been preparing. He's had a full camp. And I just think there's way too much advantage for him. He opened a little shorter than that, minus 130 or minus 135. And so I really believe that the advantage here is with Whitaker, provided he maintains his level-headedness and steers this fight into the second round and beyond, where I think Aliskerov will begin to lose a little juice and the experience and savvy of Whitaker can take over.
Love it. Excellent breakdown.
Great breakdown.
Yes, About Business podcast. He's on the Progressive guest line. Okay, back to dogs now. And my nemesis, Alexander Volkov, who got me in that Lewis fight when he was winning the fight and he engaged with 10 seconds left and got knocked out. But what a resume on this guy. 37-10. He's been through the wars. You like him plus 195 and also to win inside the distance. What do you think of Volkov?
I think he's in a really good position. His interviews the other day, they asked him, he's trained with Pavlovich, and they asked him what it was like training with Pavlovich. He says, I don't know. I remember when the first bell rang, and then they told me what happened in the locker room, insinuating that he was knocked out and he didn't know what was going on. Throughout the whole interview process, he was smug and was very humorous for a very stoic Russian guy. He's painting the picture that he has no chance in this fight. He was the one that signed the contract to fight his ex. I wouldn't say they're buddies, but they were training partners. They've trained together. Meanwhile, in the interviews, Pavlovich, his foe, was a little rankled that Volkov signed the documents to fight him earlier. Pavlovich has unbelievable power. I mean, he could knock down a redwood tree with a kick or a punch, but he's got 5 minutes of ferocity. And after that, if you can stand up to him, you can bully the bully, as Aspinall did to him in his last fight. I think Volkov has to manage pace. He's 6'7", even though he won't have a reach advantage, he'll have a large octagon. He needs to manage this fight into the second round. And then from there, I think he can turn the tables and, in fact, turn the tables around and bully the bully in Pavlovich. But anyone that wants to invest in Volkov's going to have to hold their breath for 5 minutes because Pavlovich is wicked powerful for 5 minutes.
What are you seeing, by the way, on Volkov to win this thing inside the distance?
That's a good question. I have
plus
325.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very juicy.
Yep.
You know, I like to give you guys some juicy numbers when I come on, and even though it's not 7 or 14 to 1 like we've done in the past, I've got to read the card the best I can. And
Sure.
Volkov inside the distance, I think is a great play.
Yeah, that'll move the chains, no doubt. Everyone likes Johnny Walker, right? You do too. How about Walker, $1.10, and also inside the distance? Take it away.
Yeah, 3-round fight, 205 pounders. His foe, the Swiss fighter Ozdemir, diligent, tough, good beard, but maybe his best fight days are behind him. He has done well before. Walker opened up a pretty good favorite in this fight in the minus 180 range. And so money came in on Ozdemir. I can see that because Walker has a balsa wood beak. He has a glass jaw. If you sneeze on him, he'll go. However, he's 6'5", freakishly athletic, unbelievably powerful. And since he's moved his camp to SBG Ireland, which is McGregor's camp, and I won't hold that against him, they have taught him patience. They've taught him a good deal of measure and how to use his athleticism, maybe not with so much flamboyant strikes, but with counterpunching and controlling distance. Johnny Walker is a freak, and I think he'll finish Ozdemir here. And as Johnny Walker minus 110 is already value, plus 185 inside the distance, I'm very interested in that as well.
All right, excellent. So you're not going to lay 360 with Fakhretdinov. How about plus 110 by decision?
Yeah, and this one I'll hold my breath on. Fakhretdinov. Now, we got to understand these fights are in Saudi Arabia, and anybody with an OV last name or anyone from that region ideally has been set up with kind of favorable matchups. The UFC's owned by an entertainment company. They want to spread their brand, and they do that by having the locals win. Now, Fakhretdinov in his last fight went to Brazil, ran out of gas in the third round and got lucky with a draw, so he's still undefeated. And he gets a mad Viking, a guy named Dalby. And Dalby loves to burst bubbles. He comes out slow. He'll lose the first round. Fakhretdinov will probably wipe the floor with him with his wrestling. But Dalby ain't going anywhere. The guy's tough as nails. He's driven. This is his second stint in the UFC. In between the first and the second, he's sobered up. And since he got back, the guy is nails. And he's tough and he's durable. So Fakhretdinov decision. You take the guy from minus a million to a minus 110. And that's the way I'll go, because I think in a decision, the Vikings going to have a very difficult time winning in Saudi Arabia. However, if you want a live dog, you want to invest in Dalby, I wouldn't argue with anybody.
You can follow Lou on X. He is at GamLou. You can always read his UFC breakdowns at vsin.com. Thanks, Uncle Lou. We appreciate the time. Best of luck.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Good luck to everybody.
College football playoff odds coming up next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We'll have more on Game 6, Stanley Cup Final tonight. Dennis Bernstein, who is live in Edmonton, going to join the program coming up in 15 minutes. Some college football playoff odds here, Pauly. DraftKings has a plethora of teams available to bet on to make the playoff this year. And Bruce Feldman for The Athletic has covered college football for a long time. He put out his top 12 teams and his projections to make the playoff this year. And everybody's going to have Ohio State and Georgia. Both teams are loaded to the gills. At DraftKings, Ohio State is minus 650 to make it. Georgia's minus 550. He has Florida State number 3. They bring in DJ. I can't wait till this kid graduates because I can't say his name.
Boy, is he a vagabond. No, I mean,
no
all
kidding.
over the place, this guy.
So he's the new quarterback at FSU. They lost a ton, but they're going to be super pissed off of what happened last year. They're plus 130. He's got them number 3 on the board, and they're plus money. Here we go. He's got the Utah Utes at number 4 overall.
You know it.
Shop around there between plus 175 and plus 280 to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about it yesterday. You like their win total over 9.5. There's a lot to like. I think there's a lot to love about this team going to the Big 12. And I've said this before. I have them to make the playoffs. I have them on parlays to make the playoffs. I think I'm going to be adding more on this team this weekend.
Can the Big 12 get 2 in? Can you get K-State in there too?
It's possible. Yeah, they don't play each other.
Got that? Yeah. How many teams will get in from the SEC and the Big 10? That's the big question.
Yes.
Because he's got Texas on that list too, and then Oregon. And I know you're high on Ole Miss as well as a lot of people are high on Ole Miss.
Well, they were the first team. I bet one team to win the national. 2. I bet Utah. I bet at a big number. You were talking about that back in January. I bet Ole Miss right away in January as well. I got to go back and check the number, but I have Ole Miss in pocket to win the national title. I think they're minus 130 to make the playoffs. Oregon 240, like you said, they're going to be high flying again this year. The Texas schedule is impossible.
Yes, it is.
I like the minus $6 not to go undefeated.
Yeah,
they're going to have a loss or two, I think. Notre Dame is minus 165 to make the playoffs. Bama without Nick Saban, even money.
When have you seen this? Sorry, when have you seen this? 4th best odds to win the conference. When's the last time that happened?
Oh, man, you got to go back more than a decade, right?
Yeah.
So will they miss Saban enough to not be one of the top 12 teams to make the playoff? If you like to know, it's like minus 120.
Oh, the board's good. But
he's good.
Yeah. It also comes down to how much talent you're bringing in. Is it more success for LSU and Texas and the Lamborghinis lined up, and is the talent being divided in that conference now?
Yep. Miami, Penn State minus 130. He has him number 10.
No way. No.
Why not? A lot of people are going to be high on Penn State again this year.
Franklin's never won a big game in his life.
Well, that doesn't matter. You're talking about 12 teams now to make the playoff.
Can't do it. Same thing with Miami. Now, I like Ward.
Well, Paul,
we do this every year with Miami.
Yeah, you're not asking them to win the national title, though. No. It's just to get into the playoffs.
Yeah. I understand, Mitch. I'm not get anywhere near that with Miami. This guy is atrocious.
I think he's one of the worst coaches. I think he's way worse than Franklin. Crystal ball.
He didn't know what to do with Herbert.
No clue.
What's he going to do with Cam Ward? He's going to have the training wheels on him. No way.
The in-game stuff is just, it's disgusting to watch this guy. It's an abomination. Last year, running the football to try to get the kid 100 yards. When the game's over with, all you got to do is take a knee. Don't fumble. They fumble, of course. They get beat on basically a Hail Mary. Cam Ward, though, is going to be, that's an automatic upgrade at quarterback. But I don't think it matters because Crystal Ball is such a stink bomb. And they're plus 250. Now, this is where, to me, it's really good. Who's going to be the group of 5 team to make it? Because you can find long odds on a lot of these teams. Feldman has Memphis plus 650. He's got them getting the bid there to the group of 5. Other contenders, Texas San Antonio, 12-1.
Mm-hmm.
Tulane is 22-1.
Now you lost the quarterback and coach. Can't get there.
I can't get there either. 2 big losses.
Boise won the conference, but they lost 6 games. And they play Oregon right away.
Think about that.
And then App State 11-1. And we'll preview the Sun Belt Tuesday with Paul Stone. Of course, App State plays Liberty, and the Liberty odds are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The great breakdown with Paul. Bet them against App State, and then just roll over Pauly the rest of the season because they're double-digit favorites. He has in every game but one, and they play the worst schedule in college football.
Yeah, Boise was 8-1, down to plus 450. And I think Caesars Will Hill, they have odds on every single team in the country. Yeah, Liberty plus 210, like you talked about. Those are the group of 5 numbers. And he also has Michigan. I think this is going to be a very common thought.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Michigan. Are they play a tough schedule, but are they going to fall off that much that they're not going to be in consideration and not make a playoff?
Well, that's the thing. Again, it's 12 teams. So I think we're going to see plenty of 9-3 teams get into the playoff over the years. He has them going 8-4, 9-3. The no odds on Michigan, minus 110. And you want to talk about a team that lost a ton? There you go. And I love what Nick Bogdanovich said when he was on with us on Monday. Nick is going into the Sports Betting Hall of Fame later this year here, now at Circus Sports, longtime Vegas odds maker. In his opinion, the drop-off at Michigan and head coach is more significant than what's going on in Alabama. Because DeBoer is actually good and proven. Took his team to the national title game last year. And Michigan now with no Harbaugh, no J.J. McCarthy, lost a ton of the pros. They begin with Fresno and Texas, the first 2 games out of the gate. 2 weeks later, they play USC. 2 weeks after that, they play at Washington. Washington out for revenge, if you will. At Illinois. They get Michigan State. Oregon's at home. They play at Ohio State. That's the regular season schedule. I guess if they go 10-2, they're going to be in, but I think that's a big ask. Those are really good teams that we're talking about here. Tough to navigate that, and with so much lost.
I'll have a lot more for you next week because I'm supposed to get the Phil Steele magazine in the mail today or tomorrow. So that's a game changer. And then the top 5 questions posed by the experts who cover the sport, ESPN. Question number 2, how many teams from the SEC and Big Ten will fill out the bracket? If you go by last year's final rankings, the Big Ten and SEC would have combined for 10 of the 12 spots.
So my initial gut says we're going to get 8.
Yeah.
In fact, you can get 8, right? In from 2 conferences combined. I think the math works out there because then you're going to have 7. I'll say 7.
Okay.
We'll get in from those 2 conferences.
And then also is, strength of schedule. How important a role does that play? And will you use head-to-head? And would that be a tiebreaker if that comes into play? And what will the criteria be for ranking the top group of 5 champion? Last year, the selection committee, very controversial, took liberty, which guaranteed them spot in the Fiesta with the New Year's 6 game. They didn't have a win over a single Power 5 opponent. They played the easiest schedule in the country last year. 8 of their 12 wins were against teams with losing record. If we had it last year, they would have obviously made the playoff then with that spot, but it was widely panned and criticized, and they went out and lost 45-6. So what do you do then and look at other records, and what could that record be? Why, if another team can step up with a Boise, who on that list we just talked about, and lost so many games? And what's the path for a Notre Dame and an independent? That's a tough one, too, with Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, I want to know how they're going to look at teams, the bubble teams, right? Because to me, and the beauty, I guess, of the super conferences, although I hate it, is that these teams are all going to play each other. So they're going to have very difficult schedules every single year. And with that being said, a team that goes 9-3 and plays a gauntlet of a schedule, and if they have like 3 close losses to really good teams, they're getting in over a team that's 11-1 or 12-0 and played nobody. I'm like a group of 5 team. They're not going to get in. They have the champ, or another team that would happen to be in a different Power 5 conference and they really don't play much that given year. A team out of the Big Ten or the SEC is going to have, I think, they're going to be tough to catch.
What would you do with Oregon State? Remember, they were good last year.
They were.
But is there a path for Oregon State now?
How are they going to look at that with the Pac-2?
They do play. They still have the Civil War.
Yeah.
They play Oregon week 3. But it's at San Diego State, Oregon, Purdue, Colorado State, Nevada, UNLV, Cal, San Jose State, Air Force, Washington State, Boise. That's impressive if you can put up a nice record.
What do they have to do? Again, Michigan's 9-3.
We know Notre Dame's in with 2 losses, but I can't say the same if it's a 2-loss Oregon State, or even though that's a pretty tough schedule on paper.
What if they're 11-1? Michigan, Notre Dame are each 9-3. You think Oregon State's going to get in?
Depends what kind of year Oregon has, and what kind of year Boise has too. But that's not what you're right. This is bizarre with this Pac-2 and playing Mountain West teams, what they're doing.
I'd say the best bet on the board for any of these teams, to me, would be Utah. What say you?
Yeah, hope you're right.
Okay.
I'm going to protect myself about a little Kansas State, just in case.
Up next, Dennis Bernstein live from Edmonton. Will we get a Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, and win or lose, is McDavid going to win the Conn Smythe? We'll ask him next here on VSiN.